Hello. This program is hopefully helping to answer the question, how do we find peace in our new rhythms of daily life? Today we're going to look at, how do I get through tough times? Where do I find comfort? While I was preparing for this episode, I found a picture of a sculpture by Sir Jacob Epstein titled Elemental Figure, which speaks to our feelings of fear, grief, and loss. I know sometimes we feel like this primitive fellow hunched up in a ball to protect himself from the onslaught of events and forces. His frozen hands clasp his ankles and his head is tilted in surrender. Sometimes we see ourselves as this anxious and defeated human being. Lately, the world seems to be lurching from one crisis to another. We've experienced a global pandemic, dramatic changes to how we conduct our daily lives, economic uncertainty, and political and social turmoil, as well as an array of natural disasters. Then there are personal traumas that people are also dealing with. For many of us, this is a time of unprecedented struggle and upheaval. Whether the sources of disruption in your life is a global emergency or a personal tragedy or both, living through difficult times can take a heavy toll on your mood, health, and outlook. It can leave you feeling helpless and overwhelmed by stress and anxiety. You may be painfully grieving all that you've lost, flooded by a slew of difficult, conflicting emotions, or uncertain about how to move on with your life. You may even feel that your life is totally out of control and you're powerless to affect whatever may happen next. Times of trouble are a part of life, and none of us escapes without experiencing moments of grief and sorrow, despair and hopelessness. Whether it's a traumatic loss, a serious illness, family conflict, a financial downturn, life can hand us a difficult stretch of road. Yet some people handle them better than others. They have developed a mental toughness that allows them to push through hard situations and successfully face adversity. Bouncing back from these experiences is what resiliency is all about. And it's clear that there are more and less effective ways to approach setbacks. When we're going through tough times, what we do matters. When we look back, we realize that those tough times didn't last and also didn't break us. In fact, they did more for us than success or good times ever could. When you're going through tough times, it truly is heart-wrenching. You feel isolated, alone, in the dark, and you often feel there are no one to turn to. Maybe you're struggling to raise kids as a single parent, or you're in financial desperation. Whatever that struggle might be, it's tough to go through those situations in life. Who do you talk to? Where do you turn? Sometimes it feels like we're teetering on the brink of disaster. There's a reason why they say tough times don't last, but tough people do. It's because when you don't give up and you don't relent, you come away a stronger and more resilient person. Although many of us resort to numbing our minds with excessive actions, most of us also recognize the limitations of these coping tools. Where can we turn when we need to find peace and solace in the face of suffering? Here are some ideas to rely on when the going gets tough. For some, it's spending time in sacred spaces and seeking the wisdom of trusted spiritual leaders as a valuable tool to have in your life or death coping kit. People have a remarkable capacity to find meaning in adversity and appreciate what really matters. Whatever you believe our existence represents in the larger context of the universe, place what you're facing in that framework. Faith in something bigger than we are, whether God, love, or nature, can help fill our hearts with peace, hope, and gratitude, even in the toughest times. In times of turmoil and upheaval, it's especially important to seek out connection with other humans. Crisis causes us to have immediate and sometimes prolonged increases in our practical and psychological needs. During these times, we need people to care. We all need a support system to fall back on when we can't do everything we usually do for ourselves. This universal need for support from others is also why we need to build a more compassionate society, one in which all of us, including those among us not lucky enough to have neighbors bearing casseroles, are meaningfully protected and cared for in times of loss or crisis. Sometimes we have a hard time letting go of things, not just letting go of anger and animosity, but also giving up control of what is to come. You can't always be in the driver's seat. Sometimes you have to have faith and trust in what's to come. That doesn't mean you should sit idly by and watch your life fall apart. It just means that so much of our sanity is wrapped up in having a tight grip on the outcome of our lives that it's unhealthy. Learn to breathe. When you're completely stressed out and anxious, just breathe. Breathe in through your nose, hold it, then let it out. And as you let that breath out of your lungs, picture all of your problems going out with it. You might think that sounds silly, but I promise you that your reality is directly tied to your thoughts and your interpretation of reality. You will hear me ask you to breathe at different times throughout my talks. Let your mind clear. Letting go is actually the best thing that you can do. And you can do this by practicing. It works. It really and truly does. How many had a parent or teacher that would tell you, just take a breath when you would be wound up as a child? Now I'd like you to breathe in and out deeply 2 times. And hopefully it's getting easier. As you breathe in and out, try and enjoy the sensation of breathing. Let it be a pleasant sensation and enjoy it as deeply as you can. Now try and remove your thoughts to today's question. Where do I find comfort? Stretch your body. Anxiety tends to hijack the body. While everyone stores anxiety in different spots, common areas are the jaw, hips, and shoulders. Stand up and do a full body stretch. Reach your arms overhead, then slowly fold forward. Slowly open and close your mouth as you do. Check in with your body. Enjoy the stretch. It's easy to sit idle as things collapse all around you, like a sheet of glass shattered all around you into a million tiny pieces. You're petrified to step in any direction. The shards of glass threaten to cut you, but I promise you that if you sit idly, it will do you absolutely no good. Get up, stretch, and enjoy. When you go through tough times, you realize you do have 2 choices. You can set some real goals and make a plan, or you can just sit around and watch things continue to crumble. Human beings weren't just made to survive. We were made to thrive. Visualize a peaceful image. You're going to see a couple on the screen as we're going through this next one. Think about water, autumn leaves. You pick anything. Maybe the sun. Maybe a furry friend. Combine the visualization with breath and repeating the sequence several times. As you inhale and reach your arms out in front of you, hold the image in your mind. Then exhale and bring both hands to your heart, all the while thinking of that image. Next might be the most difficult suggestion. Speak compassionately to yourself. Being self-compassionate boosts mental health. This means extending yourself some kindness as you would to a good friend. Unfortunately, being self-compassionate doesn't come naturally to many of us. Fortunately, you can learn to treat yourself with consideration and care. Name 3 things that you like about yourself. And notice I didn't begin with try. You all have more than 3 things that you should like about yourself, so allow this to happen. Recognizing this about yourself makes you feel much stronger and allows you to stand a bit taller. Now ground yourself. When stress strikes, it's important to make a point to feel your feet against the ground. Grounding your feet can bring you back into your body and help you navigate what you want to do next. Visualize thick roots growing down from your feet into the center of the earth, rooting you and giving you a firm foundation. And listen to soothing music. Create a playlist of soothing songs that help you slow down or connect with memories or positive experiences. There are huge benefits to listening to calming music. Pairing soothing tunes with deep breathing helps too, according to one study, which found it actually lowered blood pressure. Sit with the music. Let it sink deep into your soul. Now this is a perfect time to sit and hear some soothing music performed by Michaela from the Conrad Grebel School of Music. Thank you, Michaela. I'm hoping you were able to sit and let the music envelop you. Now back to ways to get through difficult times and find comfort. Practice mindfulness. To practice mindfulness, you don't need to sit like a pretzel. Simply focus on what you're doing in that moment, whether that's washing the dishes, walking from A to B, or sitting at a desk. Pay attention to the sights, scents, and sounds surrounding you. In the moment, ask yourself what your emotion feels like. Observe them as if you're watching a movie. This helps you get out of your head and into your body. Let yourself feel bad. Remember that you don't have to fix your feelings right away. But don't feel guilty for feeling bad or fault yourself if you aren't seeing rainbows and unicorns. It's important to give yourself permission to acknowledge and honor your feelings and stay with them. Sometimes it's okay to just say, I'm having a really crappy day. Plus, feelings have a purpose. They send us important messages that something isn't quite right. When you're ready to feel better, then you reach for some of the healthy strategies that you learned today. Happiness, anxiety, delight, frustration, serenity, and patience, these are all emotions. We all have them. And so far, nobody has figured out a way to remove the uncomfortable feelings without also erasing excitement and other pleasurable emotions. So our options are either to accept occasional emotional pain or relinquish feeling much of anything at all. Feelings have important functions. Among other things, they signify that we care, that we are affected by what goes on around us, and that we aren't inanimate robots or statues. Feelings also communicate to us and those around us what we want and need. Our responses to our feelings can run the gamut, with one extreme being denial of our emotions and the other extreme being utter immersion in identification with our emotions. The healthy middle ground consists of our bearing witness to our feelings, without judgment, with warm regard, and the recognition that however painful, our feelings won't last forever. Admittedly, this can be quite a balancing act. Some days will be easier than others. For instance, if we're sleep deprived, fighting a cold, lonely, facing a work deadline, or experiencing conflict in an important relationship, it may be harder to tolerate our feelings, but it is possible. When we see a friend in distress, most of us have the urge to provide comfort. We might soothe them with our words, showing them that we recognize and understand that they're upset. So when did we become too old to need compassion? The answer is that we never did and never will. Then why do we often have trouble relating as kindly to ourselves when we're confronting a difficult time? Generally, as children, we learned how to relate to ourselves from our parents and other caretakers. If such adults consistently confronted us and validated our feelings, we're likely to internalize such voices and take the same supportive attitude toward ourselves. However, if our caretakers were impatient, told us our feelings were wrong or stupid or ignored us, were absent, or were unpredictable in their responses to us, we may have adopted similar approaches when left to our own devices. The challenge is how to soothe ourselves when nobody else is available. It's not always possible to turn to someone else for comfort, as I mentioned earlier. There are times when we have to walk through the fire on our own. With practice, we can learn effective ways to comfort ourselves. Ask yourself, what would someone who loves and respects herself or himself do at this moment? This question can remind you to treat yourself as you would a cherished friend. It also provides just enough distance from your feelings, so you can see your experience while not being overwhelmed. View your present experience like a detective. Become curious rather than resisting what's going on. Stick with the facts. Write them down. Look at 1. Where do you feel your emotional pain in your body? Do you have a headache, backache, Sore muscle, nausea? What are you telling yourself? What's your mental dialogue like? What words are you using about yourself, your past, the present moment, your feelings, or the future? Are you being mean, critical, or predicting disaster? What sort of actions do you want to take? Whether or not you're actually acting on your impulses, what is your knee-jerk impulse? To run away, hide, act aggressively, cry, yell, withdraw? Have you ever had a pet hide their face under your arm when you brought them to the vet? They're seeking safety. Perseverance is the ability to stick with it despite the desire to let go. Some say it is the small voice deep inside you that says, hang on, when the rest of you screams to give up. It can be tough to hang on, but that's what makes you a tough or durable person. One who perseveres is one who doesn't quit when things go against them, or when the odds go from bad to worse. When you think about things that way, you'll push through. You'll persist and persevere. You won't give up and throw in that towel. You'll keep going and going and going. Remember that gratitude journal I mentioned earlier? Grab it and write down several of the difficulties that you have faced in the past. Then write down next to each how you faced these difficulties. Write down what your attitude was, both at the beginning and at the end of each difficulty. Did you notice a pattern? A positive attitude is a big factor. It actually is fairly easy once you train yourself. Start small. And anytime you get a task or job that you really don't enjoy, practice perseverance. Don't set your attitude based on the task at hand, but on what you can do after you complete it. If you have a whole list of jobs, think of what you'll do after you're done. Keep a positive attitude, and the task becomes less onerous. Now let's take another short break and listen to Michaela play another song entitled The Dream. Thank you again, Michaela, for your wonderful gift at the piano, and thank you again to Conrad Grebel School of Music. Now let's go back to ways we can provide comfort to ourselves. Give yourself a hug. You're providing yourself with an infusion of the hormone oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which increases trust and empathy and counters anxiety. Putting your hand on your heart or stroking your arm also stimulates the release of oxytocin. Try and hug for 3 breaths. And at the same time say, I love you just as you are. Those words should feel warm around you the more you do it. And be kind to yourself. We're all going through a lot at the moment, and everyone adjusts to change and upheaval differently. Don't criticize your coping skills or beat yourself up for every mistake you make. Self-compassion is an important part of building resilience, so go easy on yourself. Tell yourself, I am here for me. Modern society has taught us to escape our feelings or try to manipulate them through numerous means, such as fantasizing, overworking, preoccupation with people-pleasing, or addictive behaviors. When the present moment seems intolerable and there's no one by your side to offer reassurance, you're left to your own devices. Reaffirming that you have your own back is a life-affirming alternative to the needless suffering of self-abandonment. Deal with your problems one step at a time. If a problem is too big to deal with all at once, try breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps. If your problem seems to have no possible solution, you can still take action by drawing up a list. Maybe research more about the subject. or seeking advice from someone that's an expert. Embrace the idea that you can tolerate the anxiety, grief, fear, disappointment, or frustration of the present moment. While there's no way to avoid sorrow, adversity, or distress in life, there are ways to help smooth the rough waters and regain a sense of control. Resilience is the ability to cope with the loss, change, and trauma that have been inevitable parts of life even before these extraordinary times. Building resilience can help you better adapt to life-changing events, cope with turbulent times, and bounce back from hardship and tragedy. Appreciate yourself for the courage and willingness to stay with what is, without making matters worse. And know that in doing so, you're developing your inner strength. I believe that all of the cracks in our heart and soul we have picked up along the way are how we gain our inner strength if we allow that strength to seep in. Many of us in today's society break a bowl or vase and think, garbage. But there is a Japanese art that encourages us to see potential for beauty and reconstructing the broken pieces. If you're more sensitive to emotional distress and are finding it difficult to cope with hardship or adversity, it's important not to think of it as some kind of character flaw. Resilience isn't a macho quality, and it isn't fixed. It's an ongoing process that requires effort to build and maintain over time. Unless you've faced adversity in your life before, it's unlikely you've had the need or opportunity to develop resilience. Drawing on past experiences can help you cope with the challenges you're facing today. Even if you've struggled to cope with adversity in the past, you may at least be able to recognize some of the ways of coping that don't help. While it's often difficult to imagine anything good in life coming out of traumatic experiences, building resilience can help you find any positives in the difficulties you've faced. Surviving hardships can teach you important things about yourself and the world around you, strengthen your resolve, deepen your empathy, and in time enable you to evolve and grow as a human being. At the end of the day, it truly does boil down to belief. Not just belief in a higher power, but belief in yourself. The conversations that are running through your mind in any given moment have a huge impact on the state and quality of your life. It will send you in one direction or another. Celebrate small wins. To stay motivated and positive as you navigate stormy seas in life, take a moment to savor your small successes. If you're looking for work, for example, getting an interview isn't as meaningful as landing a job, but it is a sign of progress, a step in the right direction. Noting these small wins can give you a welcome break from all the stress and negativity you're facing and encourage you to keep going. Take the first step in faith in yourself. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to email me with your thoughts. Also, for anyone watching this from GVI, you can reach out to your chaplain to connect with me. Next time, we will look at the question, am I tolerant of other people's views about life issues? Bye-bye.